Hi, so in this video, I'll cover how to understand code bases effectively and quickly. So when do you need to understand code base? So there are multiple scenarios. For example, if you are new to a team, then you need to understand what components to use, what to build upon. There could be cases that you want to build some startup or project, side projects, and you want to understand how it has been implemented in other projects, open source and other. And third is even if you are a senior developer or within the team, you might want to work or you need to work on certain different component of the code base that you have not visited before. So in all of these cases, we have to understand code base really quickly. And it's always a challenge because just reading the code line by line, going through each does not help. It can take a lot of time. So what you need is to read with certain intention that what is the entry point, what is the file structure, and these are the some strategies that we'll cover. Now we'll cover 5 tips that how what can help you understand code base. But two things that always works if you have you have access to it. The first one is that if there is already good documentation, design docs, videos in your team, then that's lucky for you. That is the best place to start understanding the code. And second is if some senior developer or someone who has written code on that code base for a long time can give you a hand, like spend 15-20 minutes with you, that would be really useful. But often you want to be prepared and do your legwork before going to the team. So these are the two that stands out, but I will cover 5 things that if you are on your own understanding code base, what you can do. So 5 things that I'll cover. The first one is to understand the business context. I think we all even need a bigger picture that what is this code base about? What is the business problem you're trying to solve? And a good place, like if you are an open source and other, is to go through the README to understand. For example, this repo is in front of me, which is an auto review AI. And if I go through, the whole idea here is to use LLM to generate performance reviews. And these are the features. So this is really good place to start that, okay, these are the features. So what likely is the entry point? How are these features implemented? And if you had to implement on your own, that how do you go about making the design choices? That provides some clarity. I can take another example. For example, this sloth CLI. So if I look at this is CLI that scan repositories for IAM permission. So it seems that it will scan the code base in different languages and has to understand what permission it needs. So it needs some understanding of different languages, some language parsing algorithm like tree sitter and all it might be using, and that might be located in the scan folder. So I will read with that intention, like first understand what is the business problem this code base is trying to solve, and from there on try to understand which packages or files should I look at. So that's the tip number one. Start there. Tip number two is that find the entry point, find the files and folder structure. In fact, first, for example, if it's a Python repository, which is this, then generally, if you go to backend here, there will be fast API. So this is the main sort of entry point for this fast API application where app is there. Likely it should have been named main.py, which is not here, but I will start here and then look at supporting function. If I take, for example, this another open source large repo, Codium PR agent. So it's PR agent, so likely it's named here as PR agent, should be the main folder. And if I look here, then CLI.py, this might be a wrapper on all of the things. So this could also be a good place to start. Then the agent here's PR agent, for example, is would likely be the entry point file, and it runs all of these commands for certain cases. So then I will try to go for this PR agent class and try to understand where each of these tools might be defined, which is this PR add docs, PR code suggestion, config.py, whatever was imported. So the main class, you start just by following the name convention. If I like, for example, this Java TypeScript project, then again, the source could be the main place here. And then index.ts likely is the entry point. And from there, I'll start, okay, it's importing command from here. It has utils folder. So those might have interesting things like scanning is completely here. Language.extension, which we earlier spoke about, maybe it's scanning different languages and it needs for each languages certain ways that it can parse the repo. So that's the second thing, that try to understand like which is the primary language of the repo, and for each language there is some convention, like it's Python, then it's main.py or app.py. From there it's C++, then main.cpp and other. and similarly for JavaScript. So that could be a good entry point, that start from these files and then go that what makes these file work and go from there. The third helpful thing is to look at the commit timeline. So for example, this is a sloth repository. So I will go here and see the commit timeline. So I know that, okay, this GCP permission fix was there. So maybe a good place could be to find a sort of a chunky commit that is not pretty large, but sort of 200, 300 lines that I can go end to end and understand how it works. So for example, this GCP support thing is pretty nice, that it has a lot of changes, but it implements a full feature, which is GCP support in this code base. So I'll try to understand that what it's doing and which all file changes it need to do in order to do that. For example, scan file was changed. So basically, this is the place where scan logic is maintained. Then there are this is sort of a wrapper file on that on the scan, and maybe read directory is what's supporting it. And then what sort of folder file CLI readme that I need to change. So this could be another entry point for you, that try to go for each of the code base and see that which are all the commits and which one could be helpful. Now here the initial commit had a lot of bunch of things. So maybe this is a pretty large commit, but again a good place to start to understand what was the first commit in the code base. So that's the tip number 3, that find the one sort of interesting commit. And another way to look at it is find the PR that can help you do the same. For example, I will go to the pull request, a closed one, and see one pull request that help. For example, this UI feed that implemented the UI features. So I will go through all the changes in the UI and try to understand. Similarly, for the sloth case, let me see at the pull request. This is for Azure support, but this was adding a GCP custom role. So it made changes to 3 files. So let's say I have to change the custom role for Azure. So I just have to replicate something how it was done for GCP. So this can be a good starting point again for me to understand the code base. Tip number 4 that I have for you is to understand critical files, and this can be a bit hard to do. You could download the repo and use certain libraries to map the connection between that, or can use something like pandas and all to point out which file is connected a lot with other files. For example, if we go here in the source case, I would assume that command or scan.ts would be linked with a lot of files, because we saw a couple of files and it was all linked there. So what I need to find is which is the sort of core file that is referenced a lot, and maybe that is the place to understand, because if something is linked a lot and mentioned a lot, it might be more important to the business than the file which was once written and not referenced at all. So that's the tip number 4, is finding sort of files which are more critical, and the way to find is that file which are linked a lot. And the last tip that I have for you is to make a small commit. The best way to learn is to learn by doing. Find certain bugs or issues. For example, in this case, for sloth, there is a repo that adds support. There is an issue that adds support for Azure. So this might be a good place to start. That pick up an issue that is there. Sometimes some repositories also marked good first to use, first to do issues. So that could be a good place to start. I don't see much here in this case, in the PR agent answered and all. But in general, in the large cases, like if I go to Kubernetes and all, there will be first to use marked issues. So that could again be a good place for you to start. Now, as a bonus, there is also one way that one tool that can help you understand the code base, and that's what we have been working for some time in Archie AI. So Archie AI does, we take the same sort of principle that I've walked you through and tries to automate a bunch of it. So you go to our website here, and we offer free couple of repos which are smaller than 20 MB. If you have larger repo, feel free to email me. I can allow list for you to sign up. So for example, this is the repo, and I can I pick from a trending repos also here that are free to all the users. And I can go to this always debugger on debugger, for example. And the first thing that we do is to provide a summary. And idea here is that it's an agentic workflow where we do bunch of LLM calls to figure out what are the critical part of the code bases, what feature and business value plans it offers, and how it has been implemented. So in the case of these are the 10 features, and for some of the features we go deeper, that how is this feature implemented, and what are the code changes or sort of code logic that has helped implement this feature. So that's the first thing that we do, which is provide you a good summary to get started. I will need to move this here. And the second step here is we give you a nice file structure. So I walked you through that understanding file is really important for you to understand what it's trying to do. In this case, it also mapped because of a smaller repo, like what are the functions defined within each file repo and what is these function doing. Like this is the project documentation, this is the main debugger script, this is the example JavaScript file here, requirement.txt, wrapper, and it also gives you that where some sort of high level overview that okay, what's debugger py is about. So it's contained the core logic of this debugger, what's terminal.py is doing. And I can go similarly, for example, other repos. So I will take semgrep, for example, which is a larger repo. So these are the top features here, what this semgrep is about. And for example, it does a lot of static code analysis. It says that it's using tree sitter to do that, and how exactly it is implemented. So this could be a good place for you to start, that what is the sort of repo summary and business context. Once you have that, the file structure that we already walked you through. The third thing is that I told you about was the commit history, that finding which commit are interesting and helpful. So that you can do by clicking this commit history, and gives you that which all commits and what were the sizes of these lines of change. So you can pick the commit which is sort of a reasonable 200 or so size, and that could be a good place for you to start. The commits which are pretty larger may not be the first place, and it also provides you some nice description for you to sort of go deeper in that direction. So that's the commit history. Then we also generate the file heat map. Maybe I'll pick a larger repo for this one. So I'll go and pick the semgrep one. So sloth one is also good. So sloth, for example, this is the heat map. And so you could see that which files are being changed a lot is source version ts, which is likely, and then scan.ts, which is again changing a lot. So that those files might be critical files and have important business logic. And for each of the files, it also explains to you that what are the things it's trying to do. It also gives a nice diagram that what are the functions and files sort of talking to each other within that particular file. And finally, the last thing is the file linkage graph. So what it gives you is that which file is linked a lot. And again, the file which are linked more is more critical to the code base. So you can just start, for example, in your utils.color or scanner.strategy.ts to understand the code base. So the goal of Archie AI here is that to make it easier for you to understand code base and automate some of the techniques that I walked you through. So let me know if your feedback on this and in the comment. Happy to answer any questions there. Thank you so much.